Hello and thanks for checking out ChartGuys.com. We're proud to be one of the most successful technical analysis communities online, teaching you the skills to become a more confident, effective, and informed trader. Join our community of hundreds of analysts worldwide working together to learn the charts, generate profit, and achieve financial independence. For access to daily live chart analysis and market coverage, a thriving chat community, along with dozens of hours of exclusive educational materials. We look forward to seeing you. Let's check out some charts. Hey everyone, checking in on the market. We've got a slew of USMJ earnings out with some reactions. We've got more coming out after hours today. We've got Illinois, which is potentially making some decisions about adult use legalization. And there's a lot of people in Illinois, so we're going to be paying attention to that as to whether or not we get some progress on that front. But the overall theme is weakness in the S&P 500 leading to weakness in the MJ sector. Most everything was red on my screen today. Not surprising, the MJ sector was as well. And in my opinion, that was one of the biggest factors to why CWeb and TRUL and these names that reported were in the red today, and to a decent amount. We started flirting around green, and then as SPY just saw weakness, those names just faded off. If SPY were green today by 0.5%, in my opinion, we would have seen a completely different reaction to these earnings. So we now have other earnings coming out after hours, and due to the lackluster performance of the initial day of earnings today, as far as the reaction goes, it is not anticipated that we're going to see any kind of big bull moves unless the S&P 500 gets some kind of significant bounce follow through. So CGC gave us the red flag yesterday. We have our low, high of the bounce, higher low, failed to see continuation, big upper wick of profit taking, and then we broke our support level today. Bears followed through in a big way by breaking that level of 43.93, and then we broke the lowest price that we've seen. So that tells us our weekly higher low has not been established at this point. We broke resistance on the daily, but we did not confirm any daily trend change with a higher low and higher high. We have to be skeptical of the bulls as long as we're in a daily downtrend. And here we are now looking at 4-hour RSI, close to oversold, and the hourly RSI right at oversold. It was weaker today. There was a bounce to play. The only trade I took today in the entire market was CGC, and it was one of the ones that you sit very patiently and wait for, and this one showed up to me. Here's the scenario of what played out. I looked at the chart and I instantly made an entry after coming in from being away for a couple hours. And what I knew was the scaffolding, the framework of the trade. Hourly RSI is oversold, 4-hour RSI is close to oversold, 15-minute RSI is oversold. I knew those three things. And so as soon as I saw this pattern on the 5-minute time frame, I was comfortable enough to just enter. And the reason that I just entered is because the bull break of this pattern was just starting. So I was looking at the falling wedge on the 5-minute time frame, which is a pretty common reversal pattern. And it's when things just get tight and lead to an eventual break. And the bears get follow through to the downside less and less every time we hit a lower low. It just shows less follow through. It shows more dip buying. It shows less strength by the bulls. And this is the candlestick I entered on. I saw it starting to break that resistance. Knowing that the longer term RSI levels were oversold made me very confident just jumping right into this trade. I took 1/3 of my profit on a day maker. I took another 1/3 of my profit on a 2-day maker. And from there, I just let it ride out because we faded back to the low of the day. And I said to myself, all right, well, the 4-hour RSI is still oversold. If we're going to see any red tomorrow under $42, I'm going to want to play a 4-hour oversold bounce. So having that small, again, I took 2/3 of the position profit, but having that small initial starter position, if we see continued weakness, I'll add multiple hundreds of percent to the size of that position over the next couple days. But just leaving that little entry because we pretty much closed, well, actually it closed up as I entered at 42.35. But bottom line is, we've often seen the bounces start to take place at the end of the day one day and then carry over into pre-market the second day. We used to see flushes. Then the more pre-market trading we got, as more and more names uplisted, those became less common. And now we have the bounces starting a bit earlier. So I held a little position in case that bounce starts a bit earlier tomorrow morning. But the bottom line is the bears are in control on the daily time frame, and we're still looking for a weekly higher low compared to 39.66. We could still pull back another 5% and still be holding that level. So 4-hour RSI is keeping us confident that the bulls are at least going to attempt another hold of that support. Whether or not they get followed through on the daily remains to be seen, but anticipating at least another oversold bounce attempt. Exited Cron today, which is Feels like I lost a friend. I don't usually swing stocks. I swung this one for 2.5 weeks, which is essentially the same thing as me marrying it. But I'm back to all cash as far as Cron is concerned. And it's because we lost this little daily high or low. And it was the same setup as CGC in the sense that we failed to see continuation and then we broke support. There's no major red flags, but my personal account is sitting at all-time highs from day trading, and I'm not going to give that back by holding a swing position when I can just lock that in, lock in the profit. And now we're going to be watching the weekly time frame for Cron, because anything under 1767 was just a lower high, and it's looking like 1655 might be that weekly lower high. The question from here is, are we going to drop down and break 1405, or can the bulls hold that support and try and get over this weekly lower high resistance pattern? Heading into tomorrow, solid little bounce into the end of the day. Bulls will have to change the hourly trend with a higher low and higher high to see any kind of bounce follow through. Acb weakness continues. So Acb has shown us that we have no follow through. We have the bull move and shorts covering, lower high, lower low, lower high, lower low. Here we are right back to our levels, 801 and 792. No daily trend change confirmation. Bears in significant control the last 4 days, and a big upper wick of profit taking, just like CGC saw yesterday. So we're looking down at those two support levels, and anything on the daily under 853 is just a lower high. APHA doing the same thing to a degree, and I'm now using the US names as things have settled in a bit after our lack of trading on Monday in the US. But what we're looking at is still likely to form a higher low on APHA, but the odds that we're going to see a higher low straight into continuation are decreasing a bit. The bulls have to see a 10% move from here to see that, and we have to change the hourly trend as step number one for our daily higher low to be established. Bulls have to get over 706 for a higher low and higher high, and that would give us our daily higher low at 688, and then we would look for a daily lower high compared to 768 and a tightening range. Bulls must show up tomorrow for APHA. If we were to pull back and break 688, then that would be a big red flag. Still worthwhile, still worth watching for this daily higher low to form, but we must follow through with the daily trend change like ACB was unable to do. OGI. So we have our tightening range on OGI. Looking at it on the US side, we have the high, low of the pullback, lower high, and now the bulls have to form a higher low compared to 715. And I do anticipate that they will do it. The question is, have they already done it at 750? Again, we have to change the hourly trend, and at this point, not very convincing. I'd say if the bulls can break 771, the odds that our daily higher low have formed will increase a good bit, and then if we can get over 789, we're looking right back at the all-time high. Hexo still tightening up, still has my attention. We have our tightening range that we keep pointing out in these videos. Our lower high was set at 719. Bulls are hoping 677 is the higher low. We have to change the hourly trend in order to see that daily higher low. And the hourly trend, in order to see a change, is going to need to, come on, Hexo, change to the hourly chart. We have to change the hourly trend. Then our daily higher low will be set, and a break of resistance would give us our weekly higher low. TRST, we got the red flags in terms of the bounce not being anything significant, the bulls not proving anything. Anything under 817 was just a lower high, and we now have a new lower high at 799, and we dropped down and supported 751. That's a double bottom. We're on the verge of breaking it. If 751 breaks, 740 is the only support nearby. The bears have had control for the last 2 weeks, and that is still the case. Only hope for the bulls short term is hold 751 and break 799 to shift this daily momentum. VFF, liking it less and less, just in terms of highlighting it as a key name to keep an eye on. The more we pull back, the more it's going to stay in a tightening range, in my opinion, as opposed to seeing continuation. Keeping in mind that there's no red flags. We did see a 40% move from the low to the high. We failed the continuation, and now we're pulling back into this tightening range. Let's move to the 2-day time frame for clarity, just smooth it out a little bit. And we're going to look for a 2-day higher low to form. But the more we pull back, the harder it's going to be to see continuation. And there is the potential, as we're currently about 12% below the recent highs, there's the potential that we just trade within this tightening range for the next couple of weeks, which means less volatility, less volume, less opportunity. T-God broke bearish. Broke that double bottom of 397. Next support is 385. Bulls held that level initially, But looking at it on the weekly time frame, just like, forget who I'm talking about, but it's just a weekly lower high being set. Lower high of 463, lower high of 428, and if we drop down to 374 and that breaks, it's just a continuation of the weekly downtrend. Labs, we got the gap down open in response to the dilution news, but we saw the bulls buy the dip, and there was definitely solid opportunity there. From the low of the day to the high of the day was about a 6% range. Now the question is, can the bulls hold 546 and break 573 to change the hourly trend and get some actual bounce following through? The daily gap to fill, if we do break that resistance, is 586. Keeping in mind that any bounce that gets going on the daily time frame, we're just going to be looking for a daily lower high to form. And looking at the weekly time frame, this is our first weekly consolidation after a very significant bull move. There's no major red flags at this point, and getting that dilution out of the way is not a bad thing as far as keeping a weekly uptrend and getting that bad news out of the way. Oils, bear flag on the daily, following through with high bear volume. Look at how many days in a row, not in a row, but 6 out of the last 7 days, we've closed essentially at the low of the day. And it's very clear that this is common ever since that all-time high. So we confirm the loss of the uptrend, the bear break of the equilibrium, the bear break of 55, and now we're looking at 51 and 445. Weekly time frame is consolidating for the first time in a long time. And are we getting oversold? Hourly RSI is oversold. If we see a red day tomorrow, I'd be keeping an eye out for an hourly oversold bounce. But again, anything on the daily under 63 is just a lower high at this point. Bears have had complete control for the last few weeks. VGW, close to a bear break. High, low, lower high, higher low. Our new lower high is 437. And if we come down and break 392, it is a bear break of this equilibrium that's been playing out for almost a month at this point. So key support test tomorrow of 392. If it holds, the range will continue to tighten into Friday and potentially Monday, but a break is imminent. CURA, top of the bounce has been set. Bulls now have to form a higher low and break 1304 to change the daily trend. Has the hourly trend changed? Is always question number one. The answer is no. The bounce is coming off the low of the day. It's a nice bounce, but we are not changing this hourly trend yet to give us that daily higher low. Change the hourly trend and break 1304, then we have a daily trend change and perhaps some life coming back into some of the USMJ sector. TRUL, there's our gap up open and bearish reaction, but we still have a daily uptrend. 1618 is the must-hold level for the bulls to keep the daily uptrend. Looking at it on the hourly time frame, looks like a bounce is close to being underway, but the bulls have to break 1678. 15-minute time frame for clarity. That was a bounce attempt where we rejected and hit a new low of the day. Bull volume at the end of the day, but we have to see breaks of momentum on the hourly and ideally an hourly trend change to keep the daily uptrend intact. So all in all, not a terrible day, considering we didn't break the low of the week yet. Well, actually, we didn't break the low of last week. We did break the low of the week, but there's only been 2 trading days. CWeb, bearish reaction in a much different standpoint. Close at the low of the day, but the only support here is 1857. If we break 1857 support, it's 1775 as the next level. The Bears have complete control for 2 months on this name, and it's a much different setup than TRUL, which is currently, even with the week close today, we currently are 12% above our recent low, whereas CWeb is maybe 1% if it's lucky. IAN, bear flag on the daily. Confirmed. That was the most likely scenario after the bearish reversal candlestick from yesterday, dropping down to lower lows. Earnings are tomorrow after hours, and we are in a scenario where the Bears have complete control. It's certainly not attributed to just one name here. It's sector-wide what's going on, and it's just a slow bleed, and eventually we're going to bottom, and eventually there's going to be 20, 40% opportunities, but we're not there yet. And the overall market is a factor, but the USMJ sector started pulling back before the overall market, so we're looking for monthly higher lows. And right now, anything on the daily under 569 is a lower high on IAN. And keep in mind that the monthly time frame to stay in this equilibrium can still pull back from where we stand. We can pull back another 13% before we break support. So the weekly RSI is in the upper 30s. The daily RSI is almost back to oversold. We're certainly not going to break that support level on the monthly anytime soon, in my opinion, with how extended we are. This is the kind of pullback on the weekly that I like to see when I look for oversold bounces. If we had seen these little pullbacks the whole way down, it's a much different scenario than 6 red weeks in a row. If I'm looking to play a 5-minute oversold bounce, I want to see the 5-minute time frame look like that before I make my entry, because the little cool-offs of RSI mean the bears can run longer with it. Whereas here, this shows me bears are exhausting themselves. Whether it's in another week or two, I have no idea. I'm going to watch for more information every day. But this tells me that the bears are tiring themselves out, and when they have to stop and take a breather, that's when we look for the bulls to get that bounce, and they can be pretty significant in terms of the size of that bounce. MedMen. Anything under 335 is just a daily lower high. If we reject from that level, we will watch for the inverse 4-hour head and shoulders pattern. Same pattern in the video yesterday, and not changing the daily trend anytime soon, but keeping an eye out in case we do get that trend change with a 4-hour higher low and then a bull break. But we haven't topped out at this point. Bulls are still strong up at 320, and it's all about 335 short-term resistance. CL earnings just came out. Bulls have certainly been buying the past 2 days anticipating these earnings. Question is, will it be bullish with a break of 1626 breaking the lower high, or will it be bearish for us to head back to 1411 support? And I'm not going to try and decipher the numbers because I don't even think this market knows what's good in terms of fundamental results at this stage of the game. And I think that that's why the market is dictating what we see on reaction days. ZYNE gap down for buying, hourly oversold conditions on that gap down. So really ideal for the bulls. And when we were down at the low of the day of 1113, that hourly RSI was down in the teens. So the first hourly RSI getting oversold from a big time bull move, and it actually wasn't the first hourly RSI, but it was the most significant, and it was the 4-hour RSI getting oversold. So the 4-hour RSI getting oversold for the first time since a massive bull move led to significant dip buying, and the fact that it happened on a gap down only makes the bulls more confident, and the bounce from the low of the day to the high of the day was massive, huge opportunity, 17%. Have we changed the hourly trend? No. We need the higher low and a bull break of 1334 to see an hourly trend change. And even then, we're just going to zoom out and look at anything under 1440 being a little daily lower high. So bulls are hoping this is our weekly higher low. It would certainly be a very bullish chart if that was the case, but we have to keep in mind it's just 1 day of a bounce, and we need follow through in order to be confident in that weekly higher low. What do we got here? We're ending it with some more botanical gardens to wrap it up. Note for today is I was reflecting back. I just ended up closing on a house today, and that comes after a whole bunch of visualization of before playing cryptocurrency. I said, I'm going to put all my money in Ethereum, and I'm going to get enough money for a down payment on a house, and it went way better than ever anticipated. But just wanted to touch a bit on positivity, number one, visualization. I can't tell you how often I'm visualizing how I want something to play out, and then taking the steps towards making that goal reached in terms of how it actually does play out in reality. And also positivity. So positivity is certainly important. And I was just reflecting back on when I first started making videos with the Chart Guys over 4 years ago, and to see how far we've come since then with all of your support and subscribers and messages and all that interaction. But back then I was thinking, I had no idea if anybody cared what I had to say about stocks and trading. I said, yeah, I'll put out some videos and see if anybody cares about them. And when I first started, I was doing it with a Boston accent because I wasn't taking myself seriously. But it was the positive feedback from people early on that really sparked the motivation and the drive that just snowballed into this big community now at this point. And if I had received the opposite, and if I had received people putting me down, of course there's trolls along the way, but if people initially started putting me down and no one gave me that positive feedback, I would have stopped making videos, and I would have traded by myself, and I would have kept farming and doing my own thing, and that would have been that. So how that played out was specifically due to the positive reception that people gave me. So I think about that all the time, generally going through life, whether it's just a tiny little detail, whether it's saying a positive compliment to a stranger about, their cool earrings or whatever it is, just any little way that you can be positive, it can have an impact. The people back then who said, hey, cool video, they probably didn't know that that was providing me the motivation to continue making content to get to the point where I am now. But never knowing what little positive impact you can have on someone else's life means be as positive as you can and as helpful as you can, as often as you can, and have that ripple effect out through your surroundings. That's today's note. I appreciate you listening, and we'll be back tomorrow. See you then.